dude.
Oh, sheesh, man. I'm so glad we didn't get that on. Starting the recording, man. Jeff, how you feeling today, brother?
I'm feeling good. I am. I mean, we got just a ton of storylines this week. Michigan wins the national championship. Lions, Rams. You got Pistons and whatever the hell they're doing. A lot of interesting things. Pistons. I mean, the unfortunate part of this whole thing is Cade goes down, which, he's out, what, 7 to 10 days?
He'll be reevaluated. They said in 7 to 10 days. Based on the Pistons history, that means he might miss like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So they're going to look at him. If he comes back within that 7 to 10 days, that would be, I don't even know how cool that would be, man. At this point, I'm kind of like, let the man rest a little bit. He's been carrying this team. The kind of 10 to 15 games before that injury, he was on an absolute tear. Absolute tear. I'm talking about up to like 28, 8 and 8 a game. He was hitting like 40% of his three-pointers. He was hitting a good 48% from the field.
He was cooking.
He was cooking. The turnovers came down a little bit too.
This isn't related to like his shin, right? This is knee.
No, the Pistons are saying it's the knee. What was weird was Monty Williams, before we get into the open, Monty Williams was saying that he didn't see one particular play where it happened. He thinks it's just the stress load. And that was kind of weird to me. Like if it was a play, if it was like a designated play, then cool. But they effectively made it seem like it was just kind of pain that flared up in his knee, maybe of just doing too much. So I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, it's like he's not going to do this every single season.
Yeah.
He's going to be asked to do this. He's a franchise player. So I don't know. I mean, you'd almost prefer it to be on a play. Because if it's stress, you're like, really? Not to Cade. I'm just saying, like, that's unfortunate. If it actually, it's just because he's, how many minutes is he averaging per game? I don't think that's going to go down next year. He's still going to be playing a majority of the minutes. So
yeah, how do you because how do you keep a guy like that off the
court?
You
just can't.
You can't.
No.
This year you could probably manage it a little bit better because the team is just not winning.
Yeah, you need him.
You're like, whatever, you play him, then you're like, you know what, we can sit him for this stretch of games. But what up, though, people? It's your boy Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid, and you're rocking out with the Woodward Pistons podcast on the Woodward Sports Network. Mr. Rod Beard, he will be joining the show next week.
Oh,
yeah, he will.
He's on a celebrity tour right now.
Yeah, listen, he said between Michigan football and the Lions, he said this is the biggest week he said this has been like the biggest 2 or 3 weeks in the state of Michigan in football in his entire time covering sports.
It's true.
And, he's not just the Pistons beat writer anymore. Now he is the sports editor-in-chief. So all of this is underneath his helm to make sure that all of the articles are getting out, make sure that the writers are on point. And that's something that Rod really does well with, man. Management, he does really, really well with kind of pinpointing the story rather than just writing about it. And that to me, I absolutely love about Mr. Rod Beard. So definitely shout out to the legend, man. When you get back, we'll definitely make sure we drum roll you in. Since it's been a couple weeks, I'm going to go through the whole set this time. It ain't just the snare drum. We're going to do.
We add some
maybe
vocals
even
in. Yeah. Add a little vocal, 808s. Like, we'll do it all for Rod.
Get the MPC out there. Yeah. And you already know, man, Mr. Jeff Iafrate, host of the Morning Woodward Show. And you know what? You got to tell the people what's on the way. For yourself personally, man. I'm proud of this dude.
So yeah, and actually this is kind of breaking, to be honest with you. I don't think I've told anyone this. So for people that are listening and watching, you get you're the first to know this. I've already had a podcast previously, the Jeff and Gentry show, me and Michael Gentry here. If you've watched Woodward Sports, you know what we've done. And I love Mike. He's one of my good friends here, just like Brandon is. And we started our pod about a year ago. We took a little break from it. We're doing a little bit of a rebrand, and we're actually adding Booner, and it's going to be Crunch Time with Jeff and Booner, and of course with Michael Gentry. And you could subscribe if you're not subscribed to it. It's Crunch Time with Jeff and Booner on YouTube. We're going at it. We're going to have a live podcast a couple times a week. We're going to start this weekend and actually break down Lions Rams. So check that out. A lot of content coming that way. Me, Booner, Michael Gentry. We're going to have Brandon on. We're going to have great guests on. So stay tuned for that. Big things on the way. It's something that I've been meaning to get to. There's a lot of things we had to kind of iron out, like logos and thumbnails and kind of getting all the groundwork done. But yeah, we're ready to launch soon. So thanks to Brandon. He's been helping me out a ton. So again, like the good friend he is, and we're ready to launch this thing, man. I'm excited.
I'm excited for you all. I really am. I mean, and especially like it's been great to see kind of your meteoric rise, man, to Hollywood status. Like I said, I don't even know if I've told the people this, but when I first met Jeff, it was at I believe our first watch party at the Imagine Theater, the draft where Cade Cunningham was the pick.
Yeah.
This was before Jeff was on the actual shows. This was even crazy to think about, bro, because now you're like a staple to all of our like main, like whatever Woodward Pistons Studio A show we do. You're one of the staples. You're gonna always be a staple, man. But at this time, he was all the way in the back of the theater chilling. And I could tell, like, yo, you know how you could tell like that's a hooper right there, even if they're just sitting on the sidelines. I was like, that's a hooper right there, man. I need to pick him up when we run next. At the time, I think it was Pistons Talk, Easy, myself, and shout out to Stick and Joey, man, who kind of really set Woodward Pistons up for all of us to be able to have success. And Jeff just kind of had this I'm waiting my time vibe, and he was just like, yo, what up, man? It's good to meet you. I followed you on Twitter for some time. And it was just like authentic, man. He introduced me to his girl, to his friends, to his people that he was with. And at that time, I think you were doing a lot behind the scenes already.
A
whole lot behind the scenes. And, you know, to see where you're at now, host of the Morning Woodward Show, you've held it down here on Woodward Pistons for some time, the different podcasts, hosting the Lions pregame show, man. You're doing a lot, brother. Yeah, Bleacher Report. It's been awesome. And now with this next venture coming up, man, I couldn't be more proud. I know that you're going to have success in it. And to see Booner kind of, you kind of lending a hand to him. Like he's worked himself to the position he's in.
Yes.
But what you're doing as well to kind of help him get even more, it's commendable, bro. And so I want to see you guys be successful. I hope you guys definitely tap in, check them out. Go right now, pause this real quick, subscribe, and then come right back to this video, man, so we can talk about these Pistons. But
yeah, love you, bro. You're the man. And
always, bro.
I got a lot of people that have helped me to get in this position. I'm excited. And of course, it's because of the fans, because of you guys. I mean, I wouldn't be here without you guys. I wouldn't be here without Brandon. All the people, Adam Baydoun, Stick, Joey, Chad Johnson, everybody that's given me the opportunity. So I'm excited. I really am. And me and you are still going to be cooking. Woodward Pistons will be doing stuff. I'm going to have Brandon on our podcast as well. Again, that's Crunch Time with Jeff and Booner. So stick around for that, man. I can't wait. Twitter, it's official CT Pod. You could check it out. I believe it's on Instagram. It's the same @ I'd have to double check that. But yes, big things on the way, man. I can't wait.
Yeah,
you'll be a part of it.
Definitely. And we're going to be bringing some lives back here in about a week or two as well. Sean and I are going to start cooking again with
Sean,
Table Talks.
Let's go.
You know, so shout out Sean Murphy.
Yeah, shout out Sean too, man. I love Sean.
Yeah,
he's the man.
Definitely, bro. So we're going to start cooking those up again. Obviously, whenever you want to join the Table Talk, you already know.
I'm there.
You always have that seat. And we're going to have some new guests on there as well. And shout out to the Motor City Cruise too. We're actually going to start doing, I believe, once a month, a Table Talk from Motor City Cruise games. They got just a few more home games left, but they do have some events they're going to be doing throughout the summer. So that's really, really big. Going into next summer, I'm trying to work on making sure that we can actually get some more of their players on, do some broadcasts and things like that. I'm going to be working on some stuff with the prep as well. Shout out Stick, shout out Chad Bush and those guys. And hey, let's jump into it, bro, because Troy Weaver went on Woj's pod. Shout out Woj Bomb. And shout out to Sean Corp too, man. You know, it's like listening to it. The pod was interesting because Troy Weaver does not have a way with words. He does not. No. And Woj is as a podcaster, it's just like, wow. So shout out to Sean Corp, who kind of put out some of these bullet points of what Troy said as well. And it matches up pretty well with what the podcast was going on. Another thing is I'm seeing this kind of go around where a lot of people are down and out on Monty Williams as a coach. And we got to talk about it, man. Was he the right hire? Is he still the right guy going forward? Would you want to break up now? Is there somebody else that you think is better? And beyond that, man, the Pistons defense and turnovers, man, after this game, they were up 20 and then lost by 20 last night to the Sacramento Kings. And it was a game where when they were up 20, you could just tell. Mm-hmm. People were not necessarily like, yeah, we're going to cruise to a win. You could feel and this was the lightest crowd I've seen this season, but there were some people still there. You could feel between their tension and amongst media that this was probably still going to be a loss, which is sad to say, especially without Cade Cunningham. But there were some good things out of that game to like, and then a whole lot of bad. Asar Thompson, he needs more minutes. 13 minutes last night. Isaiah Livers played 15.
That's scared.
That's
criminal.
That's criminal. Jaylen Duren, I'm going to talk about him because I believe he's the future. Offensively, I'm okay with him. Rebounding, I'm okay with him. Defense, though, we got to talk about it, bro. We got to talk about it. Shout out Gentry, bro. Our Red Wings beat reporter
Such
here.
a troll, bro.
Such a troll. I know in his mind, he's just over there thinking some bad thoughts about
Yeah,
Isaiah
but
Stewart.
to your point, watching the game yesterday, it's just so fitting. Like it's just so it's on brand. They score 40 in the first quarter. Everyone watching, Pistons fans watching, God help you if you watched. They're sitting there going, you know what? They're playing well. No Cade Cunningham. It seems like they were benefiting from that much faster pace.
Yeah.
With Ivy, kind of being the center of that offense. I mean, I wouldn't have guessed before the game with Killian Hayes and Isaiah Livers in your starting lineup. Without Cade, by the way. No Cade, Isaiah Livers and Killian Hayes inserted that you score 40. But then it just completely fell apart from there.
47 points in the first quarter, bro.
And that's, again, kind of speaks to what Troy said, because I know people were frustrated with some of the things he did say. But one thing he did say that I absolutely agree with, and it's kind of a bar. He said defense fits first. You don't shoot your way out of the basement. And like they scored 43, but what happened? They gave up over 120 points at the end of the ball game. So it didn't even matter. You score 40, great. What happens the next three quarters?
Yeah, 131 to 110,
yes.
bro. That's wild.
And they started off hot. Bogey was shooting the ball well. Ivy was actually shooting and playing well. But what happens? Offensively, they start to kind of slow down. But what happens in throughout the entirety of the ball game? They can't get a stop.
Yep.
So that just catches up to you, and you start sinking. Which just speaks to what he said. You can't shoot your way out of the basement.
I'm glad you talked about how it catches up to you, because a lot of people would think that Cade Cunningham needs to play faster. But the thing they kept saying, and Monty Williams spoke about it as well, and Jaden Ivey in the post-game press conference last night, that playoff teams, especially ones like Sacramento, they turn up the physicality. Yeah. They turn up the execution. Shout out Spinny, the heavyweights. They turn up the physicality. And you know what they do? They slow down the entire pace of the game. Mm-hmm. That's where someone like Cade Cunningham is absolutely the player that you need. Cerebral. When these teams start to say, you know what, we got to get down to business, because Sacramento looked like they got popped in the mouth after that first quarter, man. Coach Brown was on the sideline going ham. Like, I can't believe y'all about to really have us catch this L to the Detroit Pistons right now. And they went very, very succinct, man. Like, everything got crisp for them. And Keegan Murray, my gosh, bro. Keegan Murray was an absolute bucket last night. Domantas Sabonis had a triple-double. I believe he had 37 points, 13 assists, and 10 rebounds. Like, I remember the box score, bro. Sheesh, he was on one, and there was nothing that Jaylen Duren could do with him on defense, bro. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. And you know what? We'll start there real quick, man, with the Jaylen Duren thing. Because, like I said, I love everything about his game right now except for the defensive instinct. And I get it. He's still a young player, and there's time to learn that. But sometimes instinct isn't something that's taught. You can teach the principles, which he needs to get better at. You can teach the positioning, which he needs to get better at. You can teach the schemes as well defensively, when to drop, what to look for. But Sacramento continued, man, just from an analytical standpoint, to run a pick and roll with Duren up high, drive him all the way to the baseline, and just wrap the ball around him to somebody else. So it's not just on him, but also on his help side defense. When Asar was in there, Asar got 3 steals playing that looking for that wraparound pass. And he seems to be one of the few players on the squad that actually knows how to play help side defense.
And that's instinct. Like you said, that's instinct.
He has it. He definitely
absolutely does.
That's why they got to get him more time out there. Like, if Troy is saying, look, we all know defense is going to be why you win. You got to score points. But defense is going to be why you win. I will live with his offensive setbacks if you allow him to do more creating, more pushing the transition. Pass him the rock, man, when he's in the half court. He's one of the few people that also cuts, Asar Thompson.
Yes.
Yeah. And so with Duren, though, it seems like he doesn't necessarily use his athleticism on defense that much. It's one of the wildest things. On offense, you see some of the biggest putback dunks. You see some of the biggest, like when he comes through the lane. I know Bojan drove the lane and kind of did a drop pass behind him to Duren, and then Duren just leaps and yells and does his thing. But on the defensive end, sometimes it feels like homie got lead in his shoes, bro. And it's like, that's a little bit frustrating. I'm going to continue to give him time, because I do believe when all of the defensive responsibility is effectively on you, I believe that by the second half of the game, you are gassed. You just are. You're because he was, I don't think people understand, man. In the post, when you're banging, trying to get those post shots, trying to make something happen, you start to lose a lot of your stamina. You really start to lose a lot of your energy. And by the second half, I'm gonna just at least give him that. He still needs to get his instinct. He still needs to get some coaching up on the defensive end. but he just looked gassed, and it was just an absolute bad combination for Jaylen Duren. But what the Pistons need to do moving forward is make sure they get some real help down there. They can't keep rolling with these fours like Isaiah Livers.
Well, and here's the thing, and I agree with you. Isaiah Livers, I don't give a damn how well he shoots in practice. He's regressed every single year. Look at the numbers. Like, he can't stay healthy, and I like Livers. Great guy, positive guy. I love his attitude.
It's just basketball.
But we're talking basketball. On the court, it's criminal to have him in the starting lineup. It's absolutely criminal. Ausar Thompson's a better perimeter defender. He's a better rebounder. He's a better cutter. If you want to say Livers is a better shooter, check the numbers. He's actually not shooting the ball well this year. So, I mean, technically the numbers say he isn't. On the court, in practice, I bet he's lights out. I do. I bet he's lights out. But like AI said, we're talking about practice. On the court, I think, and I said this on the last time we spoke, if you're going to lose 50, 60 games, you lose with your young players. You lose with the guys. And Troy went on the pod, and I want to read this verbatim, make sure I get this correctly.
Yeah, we can mix these in.
Because he said, oh, here we go. The fit is to be determined. Cade and Duren fit, and top athletes like Ivey and Ausar, those guys fit. And he also says the quote, defense fits first. You don't shoot your way out of the basement. So that quote, you know what that tells me? And he also says Ausar is a Swiss Army knife. That tells me right there, he should be in the starting lineup.
But
especially with Bogey,
I'm so glad you brought this up.
The liability that Bogey is, you need a guy in the starting lineup that does everything he can't do at a higher level, a much higher level. And that's Ausar Thompson. He's a better, like I said, better defender on the perimeter. And even he can get stocks, blocks, and steals. He's a better rebounder. He's actually a super underrated offensive rebounder, like second chance points, which helps out Duren a little bit. I mean, you're starting 3s and 4s that, like you said, like you can't roll out with Livers at the 4 edge. You can't. So it doesn't make much sense to me. Ausar needs more minutes. And those guys need time to gel together. It's you can't gel when you have Ausar playing 13 minutes and you're staggering all these guys' minutes and they're losing anyway.
Yeah,
like it's just, and I love Monty, but that's just not the way to go.
That's not the way to
lose with your guys. If you're gonna lose with your guys.
Preach it, bro. Preach it. Especially, remember in the beginning of the season, one of the things we were remarking about with Ausar Thompson were the blocks, the emphatic blocks, the help side blocks, dropping down, and we were just absolutely like, yo. I mean, he was averaging nearly 3 stocks a game for like the whole first month of the season, bro. I don't know how you have that guy only play 13 minutes a game. It's the wildest thing. But I'm glad you said what you said in the statement you read. The 4 players you named are not the 4 players that Monty Williams has continued to run out there, though. And that's where the disconnect is happening. We have Troy Weaver, who's putting on tape now with Woj. This is my core here. Cade, Duren, Ivey, Ausar. Monty Williams is not playing that as his core, though. He has not given Ivey consistent minutes to start the season for like the first 2 months. And over the last month, we've seen Ausar not get necessarily any type of consistent minutes either. That's half of this core.
And that hurts
that
him.
Troy Weaver's talking about.
It absolutely hurts him. Like and I've never played ball at that level, but if you play basketball, you get that. If you're playing 20 minutes one night, 13 minutes, 10 minutes, there's no consistency there. Like that's hard for Ausar as early in the season when he's playing really well. He knew I'm playing 25 to 30 minutes a night. Let's go. Now it's like, well, you might play 13 tonight and then we're going to take a road trip to Golden State. And then you might play, 14 and then you might get 20 this night. And then you might get benched in the end of the fourth quarter this night. Like it's just not, I don't agree with that.
And bro, I can understand because in the past they could say things like, well, in practice he's playing against this person. Now, who's he playing against in practice? Right. He's not even getting work at practice for real. Because it's all rookies, it's all young players, it's injured older vets and things of that nature. He's not even getting that real work at that game type work, especially in scrimmages at practice, man. Right. Like I just don't understand it. And so with this disconnect, because we were going to talk about it, Monty Williams he's the guy. One of the things he continued to say in the beginning of the season, and I disagreed with him. I continue to come on here and say, look, these are his reasons for not starting Ivey, but I believe that Ivey should be starting, even if you don't think he and Cade are a fit. Let them sink or swim on their own. Let them prove that. That's what I wanted to see because Ivey is a number 5 overall pick. He was brought here by Troy Weaver to play alongside Cade Cunningham to be this fire and ice combination, which we need. We don't need Cade to be faster. We need Cade to be Cade, and we need Ivey to be Ivey. And those 2 players can work very well together, like we said. And we've seen it, man. When Cade would get double teamed, when they started heating up over the last 6 or 7 games before Cade went down, they would double team Cade. He would toss it right over to Ivy, and Ivy, like a freaking bat out of hell, bro, straight to the rim. And he was making good decisions with the ball. That's exactly what we wanted to see. Imagine if they were able to try and start that chemistry from the beginning of the season. But Monty continued to say, well, I'm a type of coach who likes to mix in a few vets here, a few vets, a few vets, a few vets. I believe that Troy Weaver was fully ready to go into this season, bro, select his own coach, and ride it out with these young players and allow the vets to play more of a complementary role rather than this kind of all-out role. Because one of the things we heard from the organization about Bojan is that next season, things might change for him. He might be an off-the-bench scorer next season, which to me, it speaks volumes. And sometimes when I hear stuff like that, I definitely believe that this is stuff coming from Troy Weaver. Troy wanted to run this thing with the young guys. We'll look at some of these other young teams who say, well, look at their rebuild. Their rebuild is going better. Honestly, with the exception of Houston, who went out there and made their splashes last year, kind of a splash and a half with Brooks and FVV, some of these other young teams that are taking the steps forward, it's because their young guys are actually playing. Our young guys, I don't know what's going on with their confidence. I don't know what's going on with their chemistry. I don't know what's going on with their development. I don't know it at all. One thing we knew is that Ausar looked pretty good at the beginning of the season, and he wasn't shooting well then either. But now we're looking at him, and it's like, yo, has he had a confidence hit? And that's something you don't want to do to these young players, because once you ding them that way, who knows how much of this becomes a part of who they are as players. We just don't know long term. And so I want Monty Williams to be a little bit more, obviously Troy Weaver is going to now start trying to make moves to get more vets in here.
Right.
And it's going to come at the expense of some of these young players. And I'm not necessarily the most comfortable with that. I wish Troy had the stamp of approval from the organization to say, no, Monty, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to move forward. These are the players that need to play. Because Troy putting this out there on that pod is very telling to me, bro.
Yeah, it is. Especially talking to Woj, like that's speaking to the entire NBA fan base, specifically all of Pistons fans. And I think a lot of guys, their role, it hasn't been clear this season what anyone's role is. Like that's what's been frustrating. Like, what is Asar's role? Is he an off the bench guy is he an energy guy off the bench, or is he a starting 3 or 4 in this league? I like, as of right now, he should be a starting 3 or 4. It's not like this team is winning games anyway. And you look at Houston. I'm glad you brought that up, because I know they said some comments about the Houston, Troy did, about the Houston rebuild and how he likes it. And the thing about the Houston rebuild is they brought in complementary players. They brought in a Dylan Brooks and a Fred VanVleet. Fred, they needed a point guard, and he's a guy who's played a lot of games. And he's won a ring. He's played at the highest level. That's a perfect fit. And you notice how even guys that they did bring in, and maybe some of the young players, they surrounded their already young core with complementary pieces that are now in the starting lineup, and it's working for them. The Pistons, if you want to put Bogey in that equation, okay, fine, but there's no way in hell that Isaiah Livers should be starting. Like it's like the Rockets saying, all right, Jabari, or whoever, here's Eason, who they have. They're like you're rolling with the guys. You're rolling with the guys like a Jaden Ivey, a top 5 pick, a Cade, number 1 overall pick, a Duren, a top 12 pick.
And he was number 5 on Troy's draft board.
Absolutely. So you roll with your guys. Like Isaiah Livers is not going to be here when the team's good. It's very obvious. So what's the point of him playing? What does that do for me? He's not growing he's not going to be here. Like it is what it. When you're winning games, when you're in the postseason, I promise you, Isaiah Livers will not be here. I promise you. And there's no way in Bogey, when they're winning games, he won't be starting. So like you got to get this thing at least on the right track of like, all right, this is our core. This is who's starting. It's going to be Cade, Ivy, Asar. If you want to put Bogey there now as a placeholder, fine, and Duren. That's your starting lineup.
Let their chemistry start to build.
And you roll with those guys. You lose however many games they lose, and the next season you're like, all right, at least everybody knows their role. Ivy, you're in the backcourt with Cade. That's your role. You're not coming off the bench again early in the season, playing 13 minutes, playing 20 minutes. Some nights you might play 26 minutes. Oh, now you're starting. Here you go. You could start now. Like, what are we doing? Like, there's no clarity on a lot of these guys' roles, and that's what's frustrating. And they're losing regardless.
Yeah. How does it instill confidence from the team to their coach?
It doesn't.
That to me has been probably the biggest thing that I thought was going to be a detriment to this squad, because I like to be able to wait and see things out. Monty Williams has come here with the right for us to say, you know what? Let's see what he's cooking. But when that dish is done and it's like, yo, this tastes bad, then it just tastes bad. This is one of them dishes where it's like a souffle. They're still saying it's bacon, but it's like, bro, that whole thing caved in. Even though you still got 20 minutes left, it's done, bro. Stick a fork in it and just roll with your young guys who are supposed to be on that court right now, man.
It's like you're building a salad and you're like, well, the typical things you'd put in a salad, you're like, yeah, we can add it, but you know what? Let's just throw some strawberries in there. Like let's throw some blueberries in there. Like, dude, just there's a way to do it that way. Like, okay, you have a young core, you want to build around this young core you assume is your future. You just add all the ingredients and you see if it tastes good. Like, why do you gotta like an Isaiah Livers? We'll sprinkle a little Isaiah Livers in here. We'll sprinkle a little Marvin Bagley at times in the starting lineup. Oh, now we're taking Ivy out of the lineup. You're like, just make the meal and just let it cook.
Just let it cook. Especially this year. This year was supposed to be an oven. That's what this was supposed to be, the time in the oven. Yes. And instead they've gone and said, you know what? We're hungrier than that. Let's go to McDonald's. And they just started bringing in these vets and said, let's just play. And I'm okay with vets. But the types of vets we have right now are role players. Burks and Bojan need to be coming off the bench behind whatever the Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks signings are going to be for the Pistons.
Fred was never signed to be a role player. He was signed to be a starting point guard. You have role player. You nailed it. Like Bogey, he's a 20-point scorer on the Pistons. Any other team he's scoring 15 a game.
Yep.
14 a game.
He's not defending some of the guys he's been defending.
He's not. So it's different. That's why when people bring up, and I get why people would be frustrated, this rebuild isn't going like the Rockets. The Rockets went and got like some dudes, like Joe Harris is a complimentary piece.
Shout out to Joe Harris with his 3 threes last night from out of nowhere.
But he's a complimentary piece. Monty Morris, when he gets back, he's a complimentary piece. He's a guy who comes off the bench. Bogey should be a guy that comes off the bench. These are all like, it's not like you just signed, a type of player like a Fred VanVleet, a guy that you're like, all right, this guy's starting. You know what I mean? They're just, it's not the same. It's not apples to apples.
It's not. Like,
trust me, I'm frustrated too. They didn't bring in a guy like that. But hey, this is why the trade deadline's coming up. A lot of pressure.
I wanted Troy to bring in some pieces, even if they weren't splashes last year. I personally wanted that. Well, I heard the statements. He said, "Look, we're not going to make the splashes this year. We're probably not making too many big deals or moves this year. We're going to wait until next season and next offseason to do so." And it's like, okay, all right. Because for me personally, the timeline I've been hearing from them, the timeline that I jumped on 4 to 5 years. This is season 4. That means that this coming off season, that's it.
That's it.
There's for me personally, there's nothing else. Am I a little frustrated right now? People, you guys already know. When I went back and I did the solo pod, go back and find it on the channel. You guys heard me air out the grievances.
You were cooking.
I'm definitely frustrated, bro. Definitely frustrated from a standpoint of trying to cover the team and report what they're saying and seeing the possibilities. It's like, okay, Troy Weaver, if I had to judge him, when he first got here, that first draft, I can't really put all that on him, especially coming off the COVID year and the fact that Stick and I had heard that the organization had made the first pick before Troy was even a hire. So it's like, okay, that one, I'll give him a kind of a wash. I thought Sadiq Bey was a good pick. I think he should still be on this team. I really do. I thought Stu was a decent pick, especially where they picked him. Those guys generally turn into role players where they got picked later down in the draft, unless you get lucky.
Yeah.
All the drafts after that, I think they have been absolute superb. Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jaylen Duren, Asar Thompson, Marcus Sasser. I am fine with those picks. Very, very fine with those picks. The trade for Jeremy Grant, which he could have signed him, but he helped out Denver and created the trade exception for them. Shout out to, I think his name is G-Man Strong and Duncan Smith and Keith Smith, NBA, and those guys for setting me straight on that. The trade did not have to happen, but Troy helped Denver in that regard. I thought that was a good trade. I thought the trade for Bojan Bogdanović was really, really good too. But everything since has just kind of been very, very, very underwhelming. Very underwhelming. And if I had to grade this kind of this back half of whatever Troy Weaver has done, I have to honestly give him a failing grade. And if he does not go this summer and make something happen or by the trade deadline, what I'm hearing is that they might be waiting until January 15th when other players can be traded as well. And it works a little bit better with what they're trying to do in their system. I'm trying to wait and see, because I think that they need to bring in something now.
Yeah, the pressure's on.
Now.
Being patient. I mean, I said this when we spoke to Rod. Being patient, it could come back to bite Troy Weaver in the ass. Like, and I'm glad you brought that up about the draft. The biggest miss on his resume is Killian Hayes. The biggest miss. After that, it's like, okay, the next biggest thing to me is the Sadiq Bey trade, in which you took a gamble to think Wiseman could be a great player. That was a bust, but you weren't paying Sadiq Bey anyway, so there's that too. So I'm not paying Sadiq $20 million. I'm just not. So he swung, tried to hit a home run. Guy hit a foul ball. Like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? But the biggest stain is definitely Killian Hayes. I like the core. I like some of the players he's added. I like the core he's built. The patient thing though is like, you just can't. I mean, like, if he doesn't do anything by the trade deadline or off season, shoot him out of a cannon, get him out of town.
Yeah, you have to.
I'm cool with that.
And you have to immediately, honestly, no matter how bad it can hurt, you're gonna have to immediately start to craft this roster to fit Monty Williams. And that's why, like, some of the comments he said, he said, obviously, between he and Monty, he said that Monty holds these players accountable, and that between them two, they hold each other accountable. That Monty's telling him, look, I need the roster improved. And Troy is starting to now become more accountable, or holding Monty accountable, with making sure that the team that is on the floor starts to improve. And that's why I do believe that we see Ivey now in that starting lineup getting consistent minutes next to Cunningham. That's why, and hopefully this thing bleeds into Asar Thompson being able to get back on the court. He was doing fine up until that face injury. And then that kind of presented this opportunity for Monty Williams to start tinkering there as well. When Isaiah Stewart went out, the one thing I thought we needed when you lose kind of your tough guy is a heavy dose of Asar Thompson. And they just haven't done that. And Jaden Ivey had the quote of the night last night. He said, we need more fight and more dog, including me. And it's just like, you know what? The guy right now, you would say that Stu has that, but the next guy up in terms of defensive fight, that's Asar Thompson, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, look, I'm not going to belabor that point. I'm not going to belabor it. Some other interesting comments that Troy Weaver had here was, it seems like they're kind of backing down a little bit from their splash comments. He said, if it's not a splash, effectively, we're still going to make a deal. He said, we want to be aggressive. Does that mean we make big deals? We don't know. We will be aggressive in trying to improve the roster. Trade deadline is no different.
Go get Pascal Siakam.
At this point, yeah.
That's the move.
You have to.
That's the move.
You have to. And what's interesting is they don't necessarily even have to supply Toronto with young players for Pascal, because they're going to lose them anyway. Sometimes it can just be the benefit of providing them with cap space. Things like Monte Morris, who's a 1 year expiring. Joe Harris, who's a 1 year expiring.
Take a bad contract off of them.
Yep.
Do something.
Similar to what the Pistons did when they got Jaylen Duren, Alec Burks, and took on a bunch of junk to help the New York Knicks be able to be actual players in free agency.
And they got Jalen Brunson with that, didn't they?
They got Jalen Brunson with that. So it's like, if the Pistons want to be able to offer that to them and take a gamble on Pascal Siakam. Now, I do know that Pascal Siakam has a very, very great relationship with one of the front office executives here in Detroit. That is Dwayne Casey. So hopefully he's working those back channels with guys. And I know a lot of people, they say, like, no to Levine, no to DeRozan, no to Pascal. Hey, look, man, these are guys, honestly, who have been to the playoffs, been All-Stars, won games. It's like, you know what? I'm not saying no to these types of players. If Dwayne can work out a DeRozan and a Pascal Siakam, and we give up limited to get them, I'm not complaining about that, bro.
I cannot believe Pistons fans are sitting there with a smug look on their face and going, no.
With their pinkies up.
I don't want a Pascal Siakam. You'll get what you get and you'll like it. Like, I don't give a shit what you want. Like, I want Pascal. Give me a 20-point scorer. Like, oh no. I'll take no. There's no. That's the option.
Not just a 20-point score. I'm talking about a 3-level scorer.
3-level
who can handle the rock and distribute the ball. It's just like, I'm
He's
not
got
complaining
size,
about
6'9",
that right now, bro.
like I like it. I do. Now, in all seriousness, I get fit, right? Like, a DeRozan is an awkward fit to me, so I get that. But, like, no to Pascal Siakam with the pinky up. Come on, guys.
Yep.
I know it's not all of you, but whoever said that, you're an idiot.
Yep.
Like, I don't know who said that, but you're an idiot.
Oh, man. Because they have the ability to be able to pry a Pascal Siakam from the Toronto Raptors, especially if it's a place that he's like, you know what? Sure. I'll take a flyer with these guys here and finish out the season.
Because then, at least because given they re-signed Siakam and you keep him around, you have a starting lineup going into next year of Cade, Ivey, Asar, Pascal, Duren, and you have guys like Bogey off your bench. If you retain, and we'll see, Joe Harris is off, but Monty Morris is probably off. But you have a Bagley off your bench. You got, whoever else off your bench coming. Isaiah Stewart will be here as well. Maybe he could play minutes. He's coming off your bench. Maybe you trade him, flip him for another. Who knows? But, like, I like that core And then you see what they do in free agency. You'll have some money to spend. We'll see what contracts they take in. But yeah, now we're building something. You're getting experience. You're getting guys that can go get a bucket. Like, it takes pressure off of everybody else. And you don't think Monty would love that? You bring in a veteran like that?
You know he would love it.
Who's played at the highest level? Yeah.
He would love it. And I don't think that a Pascal Siakam rocks the boat too much. I think he's a guy who is kind of not easygoing, but he just seems like a good fit on a team. Like a good team guy. And that's what I absolutely love. He doesn't seem like necessarily like a black hole. Like I know a lot of people thought Jeremy Grant, if he comes back here, he's going to be basically taking the ball from Cunningham, taking the ball from Ivey. I don't believe that. I could see how that first half of the season when K was getting his legs underneath him, it looked like that. But that second half of the season, they were working in tandem. But I do believe that Pascal Siakam is somebody who could come here, probably be a little bit cheaper than Jeremy Grant, give you similar production, probably not as good on the defensive end, but in terms of a guy who can come here and you can put the ball in his hands and you can just turn your head and know he's probably getting a bucket or getting to the free throw line. The Pistons need that desperately right now, bro. Desperately.
Yeah, because we're talking about the problem with this team is Cade and the amount of workload he has on his shoulders. Well, what happens when you add a guy like a Pascal Siakam? It alleviates some of that pressure on Cade. And we're not even talking about who's getting better next season, which that's all obviously that's just a prediction because you can't. Everything's not a given, but you assume that Ivey gets better. You assume that Duren gets better. You assume that Asar works on a lot of his shooting in the offseason. And then you add a Pascal, and you can keep him around and re-sign him and get him a long term. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yep. I mean, that look.
Good luck double teaming Cade. Yeah.
They have options. Obviously, I know that there's some people who are against Miles Bridges, but a lot of the people in the chats last week were saying, you know what? Thank you, Jeff, for keeping it about basketball. Because it realistically is that if he's playing, we've said this for years, especially with the Lions. With the Lions, we were like, look, we don't want no more good guys. We can't have the choir boys. We need
it's not about what makes you feel good.
Are legally able to play football. And if they are able to play football and the league has passed them, cool. With the NBA, it's starting to get to that point, bro. And it's just like, you know what? No choir boys. Look, if Miles Bridges keeps himself out of trouble, if his past legal issues are resolved or going to be resolved, and he's hooping right now, and he wants to come here, I'm not against it. Even with the Tobias Harris, man, I'm almost to the point, obviously his wife is from around here. I hear they still got homes and things like that around here, friends around here. And from what I'm hearing, maybe even some business they want to start here. I'm not against these types of guys.
No, and the Miles Bridges thing, like, and I'm glad, by the way, whoever agreed, much love to you. But my point on that is like, it's very different situations, and I'm not excusing anything Miles Bridges did. I think I don't approve of it, but we talk about what's on the court. What do you think Grizzlies fans? Oh, Ja, you're what an idiot. Flashing a gun around. What an idiot. Oh, Ja this, Ja that. Guess what? Returns back. What do you have in his debut? 30-point.
And a game winner.
What do you think Grizzlies fans are saying then?
Oh, no. They were saying all that stuff while they were wearing his jersey, too, though.
Yeah. Like, at the end of the day, guys, everyone wants to feel good. It's all about how you feel. Like, Miles Bridges doesn't make me feel good. Everyone's trying to be PC, which, again, this is the culture we're in. I don't give a shit. If Miles Bridges can help us win games, please. Take a seat. I'll get you a coffee if you like. I mean, I'll run errands for you, Miles Bridges. Do whatever you want. If you can come be successful and fit in with this core, yes, I'll take a Miles Bridges.
Jeffrey will let you use his jet.
That's where, you know what, I would. And Rod, we'll go half on it. All right, Rod? I know Rod can afford it. We'll split that one. But regardless, I'm in the business of winning games.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
This has been a
win
bad
games. Year. That is all we want at this point. It's not about who makes me feel good, who I like and don't like. I don't give a damn. If you can help contribute to wins, you're welcome. It should be that simple for Pistons fans.
Yeah, it ain't like they're going and covering for the guy. If he's able to play, then he's able to play.
It's on the court.
That's it. And that's it. I know some people, they wonder, is he going to have more mess ups? I'm like, before that, he was fine. Some people have, honestly, bad moments, and they have to live with that. And absolutely. Their regrets. We don't take that from them. We don't wash over it. We don't do any of that type of stuff. But some people make horrible mistakes, man. That's just what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Some people make horrible decisions, and they got to live with that. And if Miles Bridges is beyond that, and I trust the Pistons brass, we hope that they will be able to fully vet what they have to vet before they would bring in a Miles Bridges.
Yes.
Then I have to trust that going forward. And if he's just, it's all about hoops, cool. Because you know what? A lot of people and a lot of fans are like, don't bring Imani Bates here. Don't bring Imani Bates here. And I know he's not in the NBA, but he's definitely tearing up the G League.
Tearing up the
G League. And when he does, get that opportunity, I believe he's going to be a decent player.
Yes.
In the NBA. I do.
I agree.
I really do. And that's one that I'm just like, man. Hey, bro, I went to see him play live that night that Jaylen Duren and all those guys showed up at the Motor City Cruise game. And was
they
covering
watched him too?
Yeah. Because Duren and Bates were college teammates in Memphis.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yep. And so it was Cade, Duren, those guys out there. Shout out my son, Kid Kool-Aid. He got the picture of Cade Cunningham. He was ecstatic about that. And Imani Bates, dog. Oh my God.
He's a bucket. He's a bucket.
I love watching good basketball players play.
His release, you
Lightning
can't block
quick,
it,
bro.
and you can't block his shot.
And his handles, it's just boom, 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 shot it. He's like, whoa, he shot it. Like even the crowd's like it goes in, and everyone's like, oh, he shot it. It's so lightning quick. I like the guy, and it's just like we passed on him with a lot of people believing the notion was that you can't bring him home. You can't bring him home. He's in Cleveland, not too far from home.
Yeah, a couple hour drive. You know what I mean?
And he's doing his thing, bro.
Yeah, and of course, Troy, if you bring in a guy like Miles, you make it very clear. Listen, man, this is an opportunity. We believe in you as a player. Again, if you screw up, you're cut. Like we'll figure it out. Like don't mess up. And if that's clear from the beginning, I'm not saying allow him to do whatever he wants and make mistakes. But what I'm saying is if that's clear, all I care about was what happens on the court. I don't care what these guys do for the most part. I know I don't want to sound like I'm, a douchebag or anything, but I don't care what they do when they leave. Just that's their life. Because
we don't know what these guys do.
I don't know what any of these guys do. What do you do for me? That's the same thing I made when I'm done talking about the Jalen Carter stuff. But the same thing I said about Jalen Carter. I don't give it. These guys, it's their business. You know what I mean? I don't. What can you provide?
Fans that wanted Jalen Carter don't want Miles Bridges, and it's just like,
it's just contradictory. I'm consistent with that. And again, I'm happy with Gibbs and Laporte. I wouldn't go back and trade it. But for Miles Bridges, though, just gotta make that clear because people like Jeff and Jalen Carter. But for Miles Bridges, if he can help, I'm down with it. It should be that simple.
Yeah. But you know what, bro? I think that's it with this one, bro.
Yeah. No, I think we got out. I was kind of going off there for a little bit. Don't take it personally. If it doesn't apply to you, then don't get offended. It didn't apply to you.
Bro, I think it's good. I really do. But I want to be able to do, like I told you before we went on air, it's like, okay, when a new regime comes in, when a rebuild's going on, you want to be able to give that its appropriate and respectful time to see what exactly are they cooking.
Right.
As we're starting to see now, Gores is coming and preempted the mill. They're not necessarily allowing Troy to cook the way he wants to. And when Troy does start to cook, it's been kind of a 50-50 thing. Then it's like, okay, let's start putting some stamps to this now. Now we can actually start saying, this is what it is. This is what it looks like. This is what it smells like. This is what it tastes like. And realistically, what the Pistons are doing right now, the product is bad. The second half of Troy Weaver has been bad. The start to Monty Williams has realistically looked confusing. And Tom Gores has looked, like a guy who wants to win and is honestly just as frustrated as the fans. But he's going to have to set the organizational structure right. And honestly, that's what some of these comments seem like, them having Troy Weaver come out and speak.
Right.
And what comes next, I hope it is all Troy Weaver driven and with a little bit of input from Monty Williams. Let your GM and your coach get on the same page so that this thing can go the way that we all hope it should and thought it would. This year, we expected some steps forward. Obviously, the losses this year are not going to affect what they can do moving forward, except for this one component, and that's what's going on in the minds of these young players, man. You cannot have your young players out there depressed. You cannot have them out there too down. You can't have them out there having delays in development and delays in chemistry, delays in learning the NBA game. You can't have that, man. You can't. This stuff will stretch far into their careers, man. I've never played on that level. But I have played with pros. I have played in pro-ams. I have played in college ball. Got to play with Uncle Jeff Green and everything. When he was at Georgetown, my school literally was within 15 minutes of his. And Steve Francis, who grew up behind our gym, used to have all of these pro-am players, pro players, and college players come to our gym in the summer and just run all summer. And it was an epic thing to be able to play with these people because they take it serious. And playing with people where iron sharpens iron is a completely different experience than what I technically see going on with the Pistons right now. So it's like they got to do something to where these players can get on the court, these players can get their chemistry and get their confidence up, man.
Yeah, Troy's got to cook, but it clearly isn't instant oatmeal. Like this is like
not at all.
This is like I don't even know.
Not at all. I think this was good, bro. I think this is good.
Yeah, I had fun. I did.
Yeah.
And again, hopefully we can start talking about winning some games in the next year.
Hey,
2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 15
some news
years.
of note. Monty Morris said he's going to be back this month. We got to see, because last time he said he was going to be back, the organization came out and said he's out for another month.
Yeah, the Monty Morris, and I look, Charles, this has nothing to do with Monty because I love Monty from Flint, love him.
Big community guy too.
Big community guy, gives back to the community, great guy. But this isn't really a shot at Monty, but like, it's like hearing Monty will be back this month is like telling me, hey Jeff, stop signs are red. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, I mean, it is what it is. Like, I just kind of, okay, I will see. We'll probably be back in 2-3 months, or he'll just miss this whole. I don't know at this point. I expect
to be back before the trade deadline. I'm hoping, bro. I'm really hoping he's back before the trade deadline and can show that he's worth something, because he needs to be one of those pieces that the Pistons are able to utilize to say either we're going to use him to help this team the rest of the year, or to trade him as an expiring contract to a playoff team, to a team that's looking for a little bit of extra help. You look at teams like the Lakers right now who are scrambling. Every freaking 2 weeks, I'm seeing, the Lakers have agreed to a 2-way contract with this new player.
Oh my God.
They're trying to go and grab
find another Austin Reeves.
Yeah, and it's just like, yo, please give them Monte Morris. Please give them Bojan Bogdanovic if that's what you're feeling.
Yeah.
It's just,
they need Monte. I like Monte as a player. I think he'd be a great piece. Like an off the bench piece.
Yeah, I saved this for last, just before we sign off. Last little bit of news. You ready for this one?
Talk to me.
Somebody wants to stay in Detroit.
Who?
Killian Hayes.
Yeah, we got to end the pod.
He said we got to end the pod.
And again,
shout out Hoops Hype for that. He said he really is hoping to stay in Detroit beyond this year.
I mean, yeah, I could say a lot of things. I mean, and I want to stay in a $500,000 house in Grosse Pointe, but you know what? We all don't get what we want. So sorry, Killian. It is what it is.
Oh man,
that's where I want to stay.
Look, y'all, thanks for checking into the Woodward Pistons podcast on the Woodward Sports Network. It's your boy Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid, Mr. Jeff Iafrate, aka Hollywood. Man, check in, like I said, Morning Woodward Show, 8 to 10, Monday through Friday. Definitely go look at the clips too, man. The segment clips on the channel. And check in with Crunch Time with Jeff and Booner. Jeff and Booner with Gentry. Yeah, you see your boy there sometimes too, man. Definitely, like I said, go there, look it up, subscribe. There's gonna be great content there, and I can't wait to see what you guys cook up, man.
Appreciate you, brother.
It's gonna be excellent.
Had a lot of fun. Let's do it again.
Yes, sir. All right, y'all.
Hey,
shout out to the legend, man. Detroit News, Rob Beard, and we're gonna get Mike Curtis on here as well soon too. All right, peace. Till next time, y'all.